Hello and welcome to Car Auction News, my weekly roundup of all the cool cars that sold across the globe in the last week. So let's start off with Cars and Bids, one of my new favorite websites. It was started by Doug DeMuro several months ago, and it's very similar to Bring a Trailer. I think one of the differences, other than a much better interface, in my opinion, is it really only deals with cars from the 1980s and up, which I like personally. I'm not into cars from the 20s, 30s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Bring a Trailer has it all, and then some. Bring a Trailer's got old tanks and all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's awesome. Cars and Bids is a little bit more focused in terms of what they show, but it's a great site. Lots of great inventory showing up here, and I'm going to take you through what I think were some of the standouts from last week. So first up, Aston Martin DB11 Launch Edition 2017. Now, seeing an Aston Martin on Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer is not a rare thing, but this one is. I mean, this thing is gorgeous. You rarely see them in this color, Launch Edition. I mean, this thing is just beautiful. Just take a look at some of the photos here. Like every Aston, beautiful from every angle. Three-quarter view is amazing. I personally like the front three-quarter view. Just amazing hips and rear end on this thing. The fender flares are just incredibly tasteful. As you can imagine, interior is typical Aston Martin. Mechanical, this is a little bit different. This one has the 5.2 liter twin turbo V12, which is just crazy, crazy power, as if a V12 wasn't enough. So anyway, an absolute beauty, rare edition, rare color. A pity it didn't sell. It was bid to 101, and obviously the seller and Cars and Bids had the reserve a bit higher. So hopefully a deal can be made. If not, I'm sure we'll see it again. But just a beauty to kick off my week, honestly. Love this car. Next up, 2000 AM General Hummer H1. So number one, you don't see a lot of H1s for sale. I think there's a lot more H2s and H3s, and of course the new electric Hummer is coming out soon. But the H1s were obviously a huge phenomenon back in the day. They started out as military vehicles and were adapted for civilian use. This one's pretty well optioned. It's got the red paint, the nice wheels. If you can see the interior here, there's a lot of bells and whistles on this one. But obviously, the main attraction is right here, the camper on top of it. So I thought this was super cool. This is a view inside the camper. I mean, this is just awesome. Hummers can go anywhere. I'm not saying I'm a Hummer type of guy, but I just think this is super, super cool. It can go anywhere, climb anything, and because it's got a camper on there, you can live in it, which is pretty awesome. So I think the price reflected the premium of having the camper, but for $36,500, I mean, I think this is a good investment. These will always hold their value. With the camper, it appeals to a whole different buying set. So I thought that was cool. Next up, it's not a great week unless you see an 8 Series BMW for sale by the one and only Alec Cartio. So if you don't know who he is, this guy is like the world-renowned restorer and savior and seller of every great 8 Series that's out there. He owns a couple himself. He brokers most of the deals for the other ones that sell. This one he's representing for someone he knows. Pretty much every 8 Series, especially the 850 CSIs, which, if you're not familiar, this was the top dog 8 Series. The engine was the foundation of what would be the engine in the McLaren F1. So they basically, BMW supplied the engine, and McLaren obviously tuned it and punched it out quite a bit to 600 plus horsepower. But this car's engine was the starting point. So this car is amazing. Everything that Alex has for sale is absolutely stunning. He's a videographer, and a photographer, and a filmmaker. You can see that in the photos and the videos. I mean, this car is just amazing. Interior looks even better. Beautiful condition, supple leather, gorgeous wood everywhere. Got the 19-inch throwing star wheels. Unfortunately, an Alec Cartio 8 Series does not come cheap, especially one with this low miles. It's number 31 of 225 cars. Dynon exhaust and chipset. This thing ticks all the boxes. 108,500, couldn't get it done. So it's not rare for one of his not to meet reserve, but I think he is pretty good at working out a deal with the buyer and the seller after the auction ends. But just another spectacular example. I just love that this guy exists. He is pretty much guaranteed that every 8 Series out there will remain in beautiful condition, at least when he gets his hands on it. So just another stunning example of a six-figure Alec Cartio 8 Series. Keeping in line with BMWs here, not a ton to write home about an E36 BMW. They're super, super common. They're awesome cars, though. Love them. This one, though, really stood out. It's the color. Byzance metallic. Super, super rare. It's like a metallic rust. I absolutely love this. I like weird colors. To me, this ranks up there with Dakar Yellow and Techno Violet. A lot of people probably won't agree, but I think it's beautiful. I would, if I was in the market, I'd be all over this car. Interior is also interesting. This is Magma, kind of unusual. To me, it makes the seats look kind of dirty or old or worn out, but I don't think they are. I think it's just the way that the color plays off the leather. So I could definitely live with the interior to get that exterior. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. So I'm all about weird, quirky, rare cars. This one is definitely that. The hammer price, 17. It's a little bit above what you typically see. This thing has 120,000 miles, but I think the rarity in the color, obviously, we're worth a couple grand more. Next up, so first off, I own mostly import cars, German, Japanese, etc., Swedish, but I owned a Ford Contour SVT for 20 years. So I am a lover of classic Fords, modern Fords, especially specialty Fords, the SVTs and the SHOs. And this car is just gorgeous. I always wanted one of these. It's kind of an unassuming, it's a typical Taurus, kind of a boring car, but it's got the SHO treatment, better wheels, better suspension, and of course the engine is the real treat. So the interior is quite nice as well, but it's still a Taurus, but they at least punched it up with some nice leather. Back to the engine though, that's where the magic is. 3.4 liter V8 tuned by Yamaha. It's got the Medusa head, or the famous head of snakes intake here. Just a beautiful piece to look at. It's a high revving V8 that makes an amazing sound. So I just love this car. I'd love to have one, and I think it's a steal for $5,200. It's got about 90,000 miles, and I think this car will continue to maintain its value or appreciate. I'm the type of person that would pay top dollar for one of these. So it was great to see one in this condition still around. Next up, we have a 1989 Laforza. So these things are super interesting. I probably should use that word in quotes, but these came out in the late 80s and really kind of an unusual SUV. So these were aimed at kind of the premium segment, aimed at Range Rover and others. And obviously they never quite took off. And as the used market, the sales are showing, this thing sold for $3,200, and it's got, 18,600 miles estimated. Really not holding its value, but these things are super, super rare. I can't imagine or even remember the last time I saw one of these for sale. It's a bit scruffy on the outside. You can see the doors, the paint doesn't really match. The wheels don't look like they've been washed in 10 or 15 years, but the interior is quite beautiful. Let's just hit a couple interior shots here. I personally think the front end looks like a lifted Festiva, which is not not what you're looking for if you're going to drop 70, 80, 90,000 back in the day on one of these. The rear view isn't especially flattering either. I think this looks like a jacked up Dodge Caravan, but it's cool. It's unique. It's got a 5-liter Ford V8 in there, so that's pretty interesting. But again, the interior is kind of where it's at. Very luxurious interior for the day. Acres of wood. You can tell they're at least attempting to compete with the Range Rovers and the like. Sadly, it never worked out, but really cool to see one of these up for auction. I'd love to see what a mint condition one goes for. I'm sure we'll get the chance eventually. Last but not least, I know another BMW, but I'm a multi-time BMW owner and a fan, and this car just can't go by without me saying something. 1994 Alpina B3. So if you're not familiar with BMW Alpinas, Alpina is a company. They've been modifying BMWs for a few decades now. So it's very subtle, the exterior mods. I guess all around it's pretty subtle, but it's a really beautiful package. So you can see it's got kind of a custom front air dam. The wheels are classic multi-spoke Alpina. As we look through here, you can see it's got, the little wing back there, and just really subtle touches and badging. I think the interior is a little more unique. These always have cloth seats, the B3s, with that kind of turquoise stripe on there. I think it's super cool. It's got the correct transmission, of course, a manual, and the Alpina steering wheel. I think just looks beautiful. So these are super rare, super cool. They actually make more power than the E36 M3 from the 90s, a little bit more. So I think it's an awesome car, and apparently a lot of people agree. It sold for almost 24,000. So very rare piece. I think will hold its value and keep appreciating. I'd love to have one of these. So those were the main standouts for me this week at Car and Bids. Now those are the main standouts for me on Cars and Bids this week. Now let's head over to Bring a Trailer and see what's shaking. So first up, this leaped off the page. We all know Supras, especially twin turbos, go for crazy money. This is one of the craziest I've seen. Low miles, late model year, 6-speed, green with chrome wheels, gold caps. Low miles, I mean, this thing has everything. It was bid to $80,000, and that didn't even get it done. So the value on these are crazy. I mean, I love the cars. I really do. I've been in them, but I couldn't see dropping this kind of money. I think it's worth it, though, if you're a super collector. I mean, this thing is very rare in the green. It's beautiful. Tan leather is just fantastic. So maybe a deal got made outside the site. If not, we may see her again, but what a beauty here. Speaking of beautiful cars, Ford GT 2018. These cars are absolutely insane. When they were sold, it was very hard to get one, first of all, and they were about $450,000 starting price, and Ford had to approve you one by one. And there was a clause when you bought one that says you wouldn't sell it for 2 years. Well, that 2 years is coming up, and a lot of people are starting to part with theirs. This is one of them in the powder blue. I think it's an awesome color. You rarely see this one. Sales price is about double what these cost new. I've seen several of these sell for $1 million plus in various specs and configurations. So strong market on the Ford GT, just like the previous generation, although these are worth infinitely more, just a much more modern and cool and expensive car, but no surprise here. These are super scarce, super awesome, and the prices are going through the roof. So be curious to see where these things are sitting in 5 years. We could be looking at 1 to 2 million, which is insane, but hey, if you got the money, go for it. Next up, an equally cool supercar, a 1994 Jaguar XJ220, so named for the top speed, I believe. It was about 220 miles an hour. This is also, like the Ford GT, surprisingly, a twin-turbo V6. It was planned to be a 12, but for various reasons, they went with a twin-turbo 6. Didn't really affect the performance. Still an absolute rocket ship, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, 220 miles an hour. I think that's fast enough for most folks. This one's got 5,000 miles. Looks absolutely beautiful. These are super rare, super cool, super futuristic. I mean, this thing still looks ahead of its time, even by today's standards. Just an incredible car. Obviously, the hammer price reflects that, $420,000. I think that's a bargain, honestly. I would love to have one of these. This is going to be $1 million car one day. So whoever has these should hang on to them. All right, next up, not quite as cool, but a car I love, the Ferrari 612 Scaglietti. So this is part of a class of Ferraris that I feel are really affordable. So it's a long wheelbase design. It's kind of a GT, Grand Touring, cruiser type of car, front engine V12. I like these. Most people, most hardcore Ferrari enthusiasts do not really like these. And you can see that reflected in the price. Under 100K buys one of these. I think it's a steal for what it is. It's a beautiful car. It's a big car. I mean, you can see the wheelbase. It's just crazy long. But it's got all the typical Ferrari stuff. Gorgeous interior, amazing engine, F1 transmission. I'd love to have one of these. And for under 100K, you can. So I think these will hold their value, but as they age and get more miles, maybe become a little bit more affordable so some of us can actually have a chance at owning one. And I think it's a great value for what it is. So always cool to see one of these up for sale. Next up, I couldn't do a cool car recap without mentioning a Porsche 911 GT car. First up, we have a GT3 RS. These cars are insane, usually come in insane colors like this orange, 175,000. These cars have the values are holding really, really well. Super desirable track-focused weapons. A lot of people want these for a crazy track car, and they're not afraid to use them. I think the rear three-quarter view is just unbelievable in this car. I love it. So I'm not sure I'd pay this price for it, but most of these people on Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids, they will all day long. So love seeing these come up for auction, and you see them every few weeks, even though they're pretty rare. To that point, here's a 911 GT2 RS, even more insane, even more crazy, even more expensive. Almost 300 grand for this one, and granted, it's pretty much brand new, and they cost over 300 brand new, but This car is just gorgeous. I mean, the bodywork, the wheels, the wing, this thing is just absolutely crazy. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a manual transmission, but you can't get them with one. It's all for performance, obviously. When you're on the track and thrashing it hard, every millisecond counts when you're shifting, and the PDK can unfortunately do it faster than we can. But always great to see one of these up for sale. I think in this blue, it's just absolutely stunning. And apparently people agree, and the sale price reflects the high demand for these cars. Up next, so taking a bit of a step down, but a vehicle I absolutely love. So as I said, I'm an SVT enthusiast. I had a Contour for 20 years. I love the first generation F-150 SVT Lightnings. Super cool. You know, there's a subsequent generation, and these days you have the Raptor and you have the Ram with the crazy Hellcat engine in there. But this is one of the early kind of performance trucks. The GMC Cyclone was another one, but I love these things. Manual transmission, body kit, lowered, big wheels, and a punched up bigger engine. I love these things, and I think for $17,000, it's an absolute steal. I would love to have one of these. If you're a Ford lover, I think this is a must-have kind of piece of history. Very reasonable miles, kind of a plain interior, but I absolutely love these things, and I'm always pleased when I see one. You mostly see the second generation Lightnings come up for sale. They're rare too, but these first gens are super rare, especially in this shape. So I'm just super happy to see that these are still out there in this condition. And who knows, maybe one day I'll pick one up myself. Next up, we have the Doug DeMuro Special, except it's for sale on Bring a Trailer. So if you follow Doug, you know he owns this exact vehicle. He loves these. I don't get the appeal personally. I like these. I like the color, obviously. I love yellow. I think it's super cool. I like off-road cars. I'm not a huge 4x4 guy, but I like off-roaders. They're cool, great in the snow. I can't see spending this type of money for one, given the driving experience and so forth. But people like Doug who love these really love them, and they're willing to pay six figures. It's amazing that these have climbed to that level in price, but here we are. As we can see here, only 17,000 miles. That's part of the reason the price is so high, but still, I think the values are crazy. But hey, something is what people are willing to pay. And as someone I think on Bring a Trailer once said many times, all it takes to get to these prices is two people that want it, right? You get two people, you got a bidding war, and bam, 105,000 for one. So, you know, these values are probably going to stay stable. There's just a big market. There's a lot of Doug DeMuros out there that love these. So, hey, more power to them. Not my cup of tea, though. Last but least, this car is my cup of tea. 2003 Audi S8 6-speed. So if you know these cars, you know they never sold a 6-speed in the US. This one was a manual swap conversion. Kudos to whoever did this. I love the S8s. Having it in a 6-speed is just even better. I think $14,250 is a steal for this car. However, as you'll see, got a lot of miles on it. You probably don't want to be daily driving a 20-year-old Audi with 161,000 miles, but obviously this might not be a daily driver for whoever bought it. I think this thing's amazing. The S8s were wonderful cars, big, luxurious. The interior is gorgeous, typical Audi. Acres of beautiful leather, wood everywhere, and with this one, the all-important 6-speed manual. So props to whoever did this conversion. I mean, talk about a conversation piece at Cars and Coffee. As far as I know, this car is one of one, and it's just awesome. So I'm glad this exists. This engine in particular is fantastic. The 4.2 with a 6-speed, you can really ring it out and have some fun with it. The Audi S4, the period, has this engine. It's a great engine, and I think it's just amazing that this car was retrofitted with a 6-speed manual to really enjoy it. So super cool. Maybe we'll see another one. So that is it for my recap for the week. Appreciate you watching. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Always love comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's a type of car you want me to keep my eye on as I'm sleuthing all the auctions out there in the world. And of course, hit the subscribe button if you want to get notified when I upload a future video, and there will be many. I plan on releasing a lot of them. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.